Look, listen. I know you're random, right? But just listen. Just hear me for a minute. Just listen for a minute. All right? Just listen. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Random Thoughts and Ideas with Jack. I am your guy, Jack, and this is a podcast about just random thoughts and ideas about everything and everyday life, concepts, mental health, relationships, whether it be romantic or family, and also a place to get some life saving or money saving DIY tips. So I want to encourage you guys to like, subscribe, and even comment. Comment on any thoughts, any ideas that you might have heard, like or dislike, any tips, any questions you might have. Just shoot them in the comments. Remember, you can find me on all of my handles. You go to my anchor page, you can find it. My handles on YouTube, Instagram, are RTI with Jack. So listen up, listen in, and enjoy. Hi guys, so we're back. We are back with episode 9. RTI with Jack. That's random thoughts and ideas with Jack. And you know me, I know my voice. I'm your guy Jack. Now I really wanted thank you guys again for listening in, and I really want to thank the feedback I got from some of our listeners. Constructive criticism, things they could do to push your podcast some more. A lot of the things that I heard are things I actually was planning to do. It just was taking my time. I'm doing it. So one of the things I'm actually doing now that I haven't done before is that I am actually recording on Anchor. I usually use another program. But I wanted to use Anchor because it's easier to use the background audio or music in the background while I'm speaking. So although I'm recording now and I can't hear the music, when I'm done, I'm going to put the music in the background. I hope you like it. If you don't, just let me know and we will adjust it for the next one. I also did a poll to determine or to give you input on what you think today's episode should be about. I had 3 basic topics. One of the topics that I really originally was planning to do was called Who is Jack? Getting to know Jack. The second one was genders and the real inequality. Those were the 2 ones that were really on my mind. And I got another one from a close friend of mine. He wanted to do something else, so I'm not going to mention it. I'm probably going to do that on a different episode. So I want to thank you guys for the feedback. On one of the platforms, I really didn't get a lot of feedback. It was on Twitter, but a lot of people may not know my handle on Twitter, so I guess that was my fault. And I'm going to rectify that in the short run. So I'm going to go with the original idea is who is Jack? Who is Jack? This guy you've been listening to for the past couple of weeks, about 9 weeks now. And that question is not a very easy question. A lot of people are very thrown by that question and they don't know exactly how to respond to it. Now, who I am is more than just my name. Who I am is more than what I do, what I have done. But who I am is also more than my experiences. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to do the basic stuff first. My name, where I'm from, maybe some qualifications. Some I've mentioned already in previous episodes. And I'm going to list my experiences and who I portray to be, or who I think I am. And fortunate for me, I have some people in my life that keep me grounded, and through our interactions, I get feedback from them unsolicited on who I am to them and what role I played in their life. So I kind of get a good idea occasionally or frequently of who I am. So Jack, who is Jack? So Jack really stands for my initials, JAC, which is Jason Antonio Clark. That is my name, and that's why I use Jack. The reason why I use Jack a lot, I have a very close friend for years that always call me Jack, and then because he does it all the time, a lot of people know me as Jack. He introduces them um, to me as Jack, and I guess it just stopped there. Um, so who am I? So I told you my name is Jason Antonio Clark. I was born in the 80s. I'm an 80s baby. The best generation. And a reason why I think that I was born in a great generation is because I am fortunate to experience life before social media, life before cell phones, and life now with cell phones, and seeing how we're transitioning into the technological age is very interesting. I remember when I was young, when computers were now a thing, when the internet was now a thing. I had an old 386 desktop. There were no laptops yet, or no domestic use of laptops yet. And I remember I had a big hard drive back then. I had like a 6 gig hard drive, and that was big. Windows was only like 300 or 400 megabytes, and I had what was a fast processor back then, long before Pentiums and long before ADMs. And I remember back then you used to download music on Napster or a few other platforms, and it would take you like 3 or 4 days to download a 2 megabyte song. Now you could download a 2 gig movie in about the same time as downloading well, not even the same time, in less than an hour you could download a 2 gig movie. It all depends on your speed. And then I had a 486, and then and back then the only games were, I'm going to sound very old, Game Gear, Sega Game Gear, handheld game, and Game Boy. That was just after the Atari age, and so I grew up in a place called Long Gap, Petersdorf in Gazettes, St. Michael. I've I grew up with my mother and my brother. I had a lot of friends in the neighborhood. Back then it was TV, but TV news was shut off just before midnight. So we spent a lot of time on the outside, outdoors. I grew up at that time where there was a transition from that village mentality. It takes a village to raise a child. So when I was younger, you couldn't pass the neighbors without speaking. Even if you knew that your mother or your family was not good or were not speaking to those other people, you still, as a young person, had to speak. And I remember times walking home from school and playing on the road. And before you even got home, my mother got like 3 or 4 calls. There's something on the road playing. And you know what happened next. So that's the era I grew up in. Running around outside, everything being outside, playing tricks on people, like maybe playing, there's a football pass right in front of our house, and maybe we were playing football and big boys came home. They used to run us and we couldn't play football anymore. So what we would do is, just before we knew they were going to get home, we would tie knots in the grass and sit down on the sidewalk and watch them play football. And they would run, and their feet would get caught in the grass and fall down. And we would laugh and laugh until they realized it was us, and then they would run us home. Right? The age of making kites and flying kites, the age of running around in gullies and swimming in ponds and doing silly stuff, riding bicycles, skateboarding, rollerblading, all those things I grew up doing. I went to Gazette's primary school, and then I went to St. Leonard's boys' school. When I left school, I never thought that I was a smart person. I never thought that I was intelligent. I just thought I had a very good memory. So I was in technical classes. I was in what was called the British class in the school throughout the entire school career. But I always wanted to do business. So I really worked hard to be able to choose what I wanted. Then I was told that my grades were way too high to do business. I had the aptitude to do technical subjects, so then I got pushed to do chemistry, physics, that sort of stuff. although he was good at it, I really wanted to do business. I don't know what have happened if I did business. Funny enough, I dropped Spanish to do physics. Sanders was known for having a very good Spanish and chemistry program and physics program. And funny enough, when I left school, I went to the youth service, and then I went to Cuba to study mechanical engineering. I have a panel discussion this evening. So I spoke about it last week. It was postponed to this week. So after this podcast, you'll get a chance to see and hear that interview. And I'm going to push that as well. So I left school. Funny enough, I was on the boxing team for school. I won schoolboys championship boxing in 1999. I used to train with the national team, making my way onto the national team. So I trained with people like Sean Terry Cox, Junior Greenwich, Redman, Shaka Henry, a few other names. So really, really great boxers of our time. Some of the best Barbadans I've ever seen. Cassius was a mentor. We were coached by Mr. Boeing, still there at the National Sports Council, training at the stadium. So I had a very active youth. I would go to the gym every morning at 5 o'clock or run from Jackson. I moved to Jackson in 95. I would run from Jackson to the stadium. I would train. I would run back home, bathe and get ready for school, go to school. The team would train in the afternoon. So the bus would take us to the stadium. We would train. And I would either stay at the stadium or go back to school and then come back to the stadium on evenings and train from about 4:30 to 6, 7 o'clock at night, and then run home again. So I was very fit, very active, and I loved boxing. When I left school, I went to the youth service. Some very interesting things happened to me. I was bullied at school, but not in the form that you would think. There were a couple of guys that wanted to try their luck with me. When I went to school, there were times that we used to call school wars. So you had like St. Leonard's versus St. George, or St. Leonard's versus Comamere, Springer versus this body. And if you go into town by yourself and you see a group of children from a school that you know that you're at war with, then you know that you either make yourself small or prepare to get licked. And there's a lot of stories. I'm not going to get into them because there's nothing that I was proud of. But there was a couple of guys that wanted to, always wanted to fight with me. I didn't know why. And the reason why I call it bullying, because I will always walk away. And the reason I was walking away, not because I was scared to fight with him, but I knew that if I fought at school, I would lose my spot on the national team and I would lose my spot on the school team. So I knew to avoid it. And they avoided it. They started like third form all the way to fifth form. And then one day I just decided, you know what, you want to fight? Let's fight. And it was a massive fight. One of the guys was in my farm and we fought but it was not long. On my part, I had a very bad temper. I used to do a very good job of keeping it in line. But then I fought with one of the guys. It didn't go well for him. Then word got to his brother, and then his brother wanted to fight me. It didn't go well for him either. And then his brother's friends got in, and it didn't go well for them. So at the end of the day, we are all sitting in the office. Everyone is bruised and battered except me. And even though I had complained for these people for a long time, repeatedly, it made no difference. I was expelled from school, even though I was in the top form. I had top grades. I was expelled, and I was actually, I gave up on school. I thought school was not for me. I thought that this injustice that befell upon me was alright. So you know what? Break school, done with that. My mother had a different idea. She went to ministry. They were going to transfer me to Leighton Griffith, and I said no, I'm not going back to school. And this is so interesting because last night I got a voice note from a friend of mine that lives overseas, and he actually reminded me of this. He was in the police force here in Barbados, and then when they came home from school with the report said we wish him well in Reading. And when I went home, my mother was extremely disappointed, and it was a big commotion. And she called people and it said they had set me at in Griffith. And they said he reminded me that to this day he remembers when he made that decision that I'm not going back to school. That I had a plan for my life, and school was no longer part of it. And it was true. I decided that school was not for me. So I always wanted to go in the army, and I wanted to go in the army because I had this influence. My father lived overseas, and his brothers and were in the military. So I have an uncle called Gregory, who was in the U.S. Army. And I have another uncle named Gregory. He and his wife was in the Marines. So I used to see them in uniform, and I was always intrigued by it, right? So I was too young to join the army. I was 16. So I was told the next best thing was to go into youth service. So I chose to go into youth service. So back then, you have a very, very broad spectrum of people that went to youth service. There are people who chose to go like me. There are people who were sent by their parents against their I won't say will, but against what they wanted to do. And there were people that were sent there by the courts as a last resort. So there was a massive mixture, and I actually enjoyed the experiences of being in youth service. I learned a lot about temper and temperament. I learned about perseverance. I learned about structure, discipline. I learned a lot about planning for my future. So when I left the youth service, I went to the Polytechnic because I was always good with my hand. I always liked hands. I always liked to dismantle things. I remember when I was younger, I would dismantle my mother's VCR and reassemble it. I hope that it worked. It always did, though. So I wanted to do motor vehicle engineering. So I went to the Polytechnic to do that. I was doing pretty well. While it was at Polytechnic, I was there when 9/11 happened. I remember very clearly we were in the metal workshop making, just getting an introduction of how to use the tools and stuff. And then I remember hearing the entire school going quiet, extremely quiet. And everyone was looking around like, what's going on? And when we looked, there was a TV inside the metal workroom, and on the news we saw the planes crashing into the twin towers, and that was like surreal. To this day, I still remember it. Even though it was not Barbados, it was just something that you thought was just like, whoa, you just come from what's happening in the world, right? So unbeknownst to me, I was going through the career, I was doing pretty well. Well, not pretty well, I was doing very well. Because I as I said before, I did not think I was smart. I just thought I had a very, very good memory. And so I didn't have to study like other people study. I will pay attention in class. And once I heard it, I will remember it so that I don't have to study. I would always remember. So I never used to study. And I used to goof around a lot because I knew that I had it. The same thing at school. When I was at school, I had two teachers that whenever they came to class, they would say, Mr. Clark, good morning, good afternoon. And I would say, good morning, good afternoon. And they would say, take your normal position. And that was outside the door. Not because I was disrespectful, but because I just was joking around a lot. But I knew what was going on. And funny enough, they knew that I knew what was going on. Because when it came to test time, no one got higher grades than I did. But that was a little bit distracting to others. I didn't understand that. But they never disrespected me. They never were rough with me or rude to me. They just, was like, Jason, outside the big door. And make sure when you big door, you pay attention. Right? And that's what it was. I also want to mention this. I had some very influential teachers at St. Leonard's as well. There was a guy, Mr. Carbin, that was the head of Spanish. One of his proteges. A lot of people in Barbados know as Mr. Loki, Andrew Loki. But Mr. Carbon was very, very instrumental in and was a very positive role model to all of us at the school. There was our chemistry teacher. Oh my God, why now I'm forgetting his name. There was a feature on him a few months ago, Mr. A short little red man, but he was extremely good because He had students coming from Harrison College, Queens College, Combermere to do chemistry with him. Mr. Lashley, he was extremely good. We had one that was physics that was really good. But I would say favorite. I don't want to say favorite, but I had two very instrumental teachers, and they were both English teachers. I can't remember the lady's name right now, but I remember Mr. Sherwin Walters, and he saw something in me. I guess then that I never really understood. But he used to say, Jason, you are brilliant, and I want you, no matter what you do in your life, to dare to be different. Dare to be different. Do not do what everyone else is doing. Be brave enough and be strong enough to make an unpopular choice. Dare to be different. And that stuck with me. So when I made a decision to go to youth service, a lot of my friends and my family was like, well, you want to do that, only bad boys and people that ain't got no future is going to youth service? But in my mind, that was something different. That was something that I thought that I could really get from. I don't care about what other people were saying. That is what he wanted, and that's what he was doing, and that's what he did. So when I was at Polytechnic, there was a lady by the name of Miss Canterbury. She was a counselor, and unbeknownst to me, she submitted my name to a scholarship program. Did not know. So one day I was at school, and I got this call. Hi, are you Jason Clark? I was like, yes. All right, I just want you to know that you've been awarded a scholarship to study a course of your choice in Cuba. And I was like, you sure you got the right person, the right number? Because I didn't apply to anything. And they were like, well, we have your number here. The number is correct. They asked me your address. His address was correct. My date of birth, it was correct. And I was like, how did you get my information? And what I found out is that Miss Canterbury, who lived in England, she was here in Barbados at the time, saw something in me as well. And she submitted an application for me to go study in Cuba. In my mind, I was like, who goes to Cuba and study? You understand? I only knew about Cuba what I heard in the news, and I wasn't interested. I was like, okay, well, all right, thanks, but no thanks. And the person was like, well, before you do that, there's a meeting at the Ministry of Education. Just come down and listen to the presentation and see what you think about it and make your decision from there. I said, okay. And I went down to the ministry. I met a lot of people. And it was something about it that was so calling to me. Something about it that said to me, Jason, this is the move. Get this move. Make this move. And funny enough, some of those people I met for the very first time are some of my closest friends to this day. People I've never met in my entire life. People from all different walks of life. And we all had this one thing in common, is that we were going to embark in this idea of studying in Cuba. So I did some more research. I spoke to people who weren't ready. There are students that had already graduated. There are students who were actively there studying, and they spoke to us. We spoke to some Cubans. We spoke to people from the ministry. So it was two entities. It was the Ministry of Education. Yeah, it was the Ministry of Education then. And there was the Israel Level Foundation, if I remember right, with David Comenson and David Denny. So I went home and told my mom, look, listen, this is what I think I want to do, and this is the plan. We spoke about it, and we agreed to try it out. She went to one of the meetings afterwards. She met with some of the parents. She had her questions. There were a few events, getting to know your events on the sudden was going on. So my mother loves traveling. So when we went up, she was actually one of the parents that went up with us. There were a few other parents that went up, and they had a great time. They had a great experience. We learned that Barbados has a very strong connection with Cuba, and there are a lot of Barbadians that moved to Cuba and lived there, and there are generations of Barbadian descendants that have never left Cuba, but speaks perfect dialect. And that's something I could even talk about in an entire episode. But that blew my mind. I remember a time I was in a bus terminal, going back to my university, and Cuba is a very big place. A lot of people don't understand it. Cuba is extremely big. So from Havana to Santiago, where I studied, um, by train was like 16 or 18 hours. By bus, different types of bus, or certain trains it can take you up to 24 hours. There were special buses and trains that did it in shorter times. By doing shorter, doing less stops. So Cuba's a very big place. I remember one time I was leaving a party, going back to my university. I was in the bus terminal, and this woman was sweeping the bus terminal, and I had just got there. The bus had just left, and I was like, ORH. This is a Barbados word. So when they said this, the body said, I heard his voice behind me saying, don't worry, another bus will come just now, young boy. So I look around. I was looking around for this middle-aged woman. Well, the voice was a middle-aged woman. I was looking around. I ain't seeing his body. And the body said, a soft voice, you ain't gotta look wrong, so you're frightened? So I look at this lady sleeping. I was like, is you that talking to me? Like, yes, how you mean is me that talking to you? And I was like, you're a Bajan? She was like, yes, I'm Bajan. My family from Barbados, but I'm Cuban. And I was like, so you left Barbados to come to Cuba? Like, she never left Cuba. And I was like, so how you know how to speak Bajan dialect? She was like, her great grandfather lived in Barbados, and where she lives is a community of just Barbadian descendants. So although they speak Spanish when they're at home, they speak this dialect. And the woman started telling me what parish they're from. She knew her entire history, and I was impressed and ashamed at the same time because she had more identity than I had. She knew more about her family in Barbados. I never had been to Barbados, and I, who lived in Barbados my whole life, was very limited on who was actually my family with. I know who I've been with and who I've been around, but I can't tell you about my extended family. Right? So I spent a few years in Cuba. I did my bachelor's in mechanical engineering. Actually, in my family, our generation was the first generation where everyone went to university. So we had like grandparents before, our uncles and stuff before that went to university, but they might have been 1 out of 6 or 1 out of 7. I had a grandfather from St. James. He had 25 children, so you can imagine, right? So one child out of every generation. My time, we went to university. One of my cousins went to university in Brussels. One is here. He has his own company. He went to UE, and then he was in Cuba. So we used to contact each other to see, like what we were doing at the same point in time. And we were all doing, well, I did engineering. The other one did engineering, and the one that was in Brussels did economics and finance and so that sort of stuff. So now he's an actuary. And if you know what an actuary is, you know the type of money they make. The other one is a computer specialist. He has his own company. And I'm a mechanical engineer. My first degree is in mechanical engineering. So I spent my time in Cuba. I had a time of my life. I met some very, very great people. I've learned a lot of life lessons that I would have never learned if I studied here in Barbados. And I gained a level of patriotism in Cuba that I would have never gotten anywhere else. And it sounds funny, but sometimes when you see people in different walks of life, living different ways, and still has a strong sense of purpose and commitment to their country, it really does. It plants a seed in you. So I graduated top of my class, first class honors. I met my brother down there. I call him my brother because we are no longer friends. This man is my blood. So he is my brother. He's from Suriname. And funny enough, his wife now was a very close friend of mine. I used to call my sister. So now I had to separate the two because it would be incestual for the two of them to get married. So they are married. So it is my brother and my family in South America. They live in South America. I have some very good friends here in Barbados and throughout the region. So I have friends that will call and say Jason in Barbados, and nothing more needs to be said. When I travel and I go to other places, I say, yeah, I'm in this country. Nothing more needs to be said. There's always a link up. There's always a link up. There's always a situation where we make sure that each other are taken care of. And no matter what it is, that's a bond that we have throughout the Caribbean. From all the way up in Jamaica to all the way down in South America. And I am extremely happy for that experience. Now, there's a lot more I can add to it, but I just want to say that that has been a very, very, very instrumental part of my life, developing who I am. Who I am today is because a lot of those experiences that I have had in Cuba, in the youth service, and at St. Leonard's, they have molded me into who I am today. So when it comes to professionalism, relationships, friendships, I've been through it all. I've been through so much. Things I won't even dare to repeat now, but that has molded Jason to who he is. So who is this person? Who is Jason? Right now, Jason is an evolving personality. But I have some static traits that I don't think will ever change. I'm going to tell you what those are right now. All right, so this is who I am. Who I have become based on my experiences in life. Good and bad experiences. I won't say they all have been good. I've made a lot of mistakes in my life and overseas, and I've trusted people too much. But as I mentioned before, I'm an introvert with extroverted tendencies or qualities when needed to be or when necessary. But I trust people. I trust everyone from the get-go. I give people the opportunity to prove themselves. So the bad thing about it is that obviously you could be hurt or taken advantage of. But once you've lost my trust, there is no coming back. I can forgive, but I will not forget. I won't hold it against you, but I will never put myself in a situation to give you the opportunity to prove yourself again. And that's who I am, straight off the bat. However, if you've gotten my trust, you've gained it, you've maintained it, then you can get anything from me. I have a very small circle of friends, very, very small. And even beyond that circle is another circle. So I have my radar dice that are very few, probably one or two. And then outside of that very, very close nucleus, I have another ring of other friends that I would do for, or will do for me. And then outside of that ring is everybody else. I don't like gossip. I don't like people talking about other people or bitching and moaning and complaining about things. So I avoid those situations. I don't put myself in situations where I don't feel comfortable. I identify how I feel and I deal with stuff and I treat the stuff. And that is because of some things I spoke about before, meditation and that sort of stuff. It has been a big part of my life. But I identify things quickly and I work with it and I try to avoid things from happening. So if I see a conversation going down the wrong direction or I see a situation going in the wrong direction, I just stop, hold on. I am not about to do this, or this is not really what I'm interested in. So could we do this? Or you know what? This ain't for me. So get through. Not shame. Do your thing. It just ain't for me. I realize that being comfortable is extremely important. Being comfortable in certain things in life is important in certain situations. I do appreciate though that you must become uncomfortable or get used to being uncomfortable in other situations in your life. For instance, if you want to achieve something that you've never had, you have to do something you've never done. So therefore, you have to be uncomfortable to do new things because you're not going to be comfortable doing something very new for the first time because there's always that idea that you're going to fail. So in that aspect, I believe that you should get comfortable being comfortable. But in the other aspect of living your life and being in situations um, where it is not necessary, you should be comfortable. You should feel safe and secure, and anything outside of that that puts you outside of your comfort zone when it's not in a situation where you're trying to get somewhere or do something different or new, you shouldn't do it, or you should seek to put yourself in a much better position, right? And so that's how I always think, and people around me appreciate that. And so once you know me, you know what it's about. No, I want to use an example. No, years ago I was young, and you want to do things, and you will go to the strip club or you go parties or whatever, and that would be the thing. So, boys, kind of go to the strip club, like, yeah, yeah. But no, that does not interest me whatsoever. I've been there before. I've done it. So, like a few weeks ago, I was out with some friends, and they were like, "Come, let's go to the strip club," and I was like, "Nah, we good." Like, no, come, come. I was like, "Nah, I good. If you want to go, it's okay. Go ahead. I'll wait in the car. Like a line. I can do other things. You get back." But it just not about it, and it wasn't that I didn't trust them or anything. It's just that it wasn't appealing to me. It's not to say that I would never ever go back in one or whatever. I just don't think that that's where I am right now. And I think that growth is something that's continuous, and you could be something today and be something else tomorrow. You could feel one way today and feel another way tomorrow, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's no need to be static forever in all things. But if your heart or your inner self is telling you no, don't do something, and don't do it, there must be a reason why your consciousness is telling you or your subconscious is telling you don't do it. And if you go and do something that you don't feel to do, then you might find yourself in an uncomfortable situation. Or if something bad happens, then you're constantly worrying yourself or blaming yourself for doing something that you didn't want to do. Right? Now, another thing that is purely Jason, that is part of me, is that I believe in family to a fault. And I say to a fault because I am now experiencing the negative side of that. So I will sacrifice myself, my wants, my needs for my family. I have two daughters. I have three daughters. Um, I don't like the word stepdaughter, so I don't use it. So I have stepdaughter and two other daughters that came from my DNA, right? And they're always on the forefront of my mind. Everything I do for them. Everything I plan for them. Every cent I spend goes towards them. So we got our first house at 30. I was 30 years old. I had my own place, living at me, my own key, whatever. And it really and truly, it wasn't for me, it was for them. So that when they die and go on, they would not have to find or look for some place to live. That's how my mentality was all the time. And I spent a lot of time neglecting everything that I wanted. And for instance, I wanted to start a company when I first got back to Barbados. I have some regional friends that are engineers, specialists in other fields, and we had discussions about it. Everyone was on board. But then when marriage happened and children happened and mortgage happened and car loans happened and a lot of things, a lot of risks that I was willing to take, I could not take. And now it's regrettable because I could have been so far, right? I don't regret making a decision. I just regret how I feel about it now. And I can understand why a lot of marriages don't last. I can understand why relationships don't last when you find people in this situation that have put everything they want aside, and then after a while, if it doesn't work out or you think about where you could have been, it could create some resentment. Not that I have resentment, but now looking back, if I had made the steps I wanted to make before, I would have been a lot further than where I am today. I'm not ungrateful. I'm 37 years old, going to be 38 in a few weeks, probably. Actually, in 14 days, 2 weeks exactly. And I have accomplished a lot financially, um, professionally already that a lot of people have not experienced in their entire lifetime, and I'm very grateful for that. It was nothing was given to me or handed down to me. I worked my ass off for many years in some very bad situations under some very poor leaders and poor bosses. But I have always been an asset to any organization I've worked with. Right. So in a nutshell, that is who I am. I'm loving. I love to laugh. I love to make people laugh. I actually feel a lot better making people laugh and enjoying themselves. Everyone likes a straight talker. I like to say everyone likes a clown. Everyone likes an idiot. Until we get serious, and then it's a whole different ball game. On another side of me, I love to fight. I don't like to start fights, but I definitely will end one because I know how to fight. So I was a boxer for a long time. I did some martial arts, jiu-jitsu. Under I won't mention his name, but he's no longer with us. And fighting has always been something I like to do, not because I like to hurt people, but I like to challenge myself in different levels. So it was always something interesting, keep the blood pumping, and but I'm older now, and I don't try to avoid situations, especially now you got children and you don't want to get unlucky blow, and then you gotta worry about somebody got to take care of children, or the children got to see you hook up the machines, and and in my last episode I spoke about some health issues I've been fighting with for a while, and so you don't want to put yourself in these situations again. I know with this thing going on with me, I am extremely cautious now. So even when I'm driving, I usually drive defensively. I drive and watch for the idiots. So I just watch the car in front of me and the car in front of that. I always use my mirrors to let see who's coming behind me, whatever. But no, I'm even more cautious because I don't want to do anything to compound that situation or whatever. So anyone who knows me, I am sure would agree with what I'm saying today. And that's basically me in a nutshell. I spent 12 years working in the military, Barbados Coast Guard, and Barbados Defense Force. I spent about 7 years running engineering. I've held many roles: junior engineer, junior engineer on base, junior engineer on vessels, a navigator for vessel. I've been a chief engineer on the training to take over HMBS Trident. I went back to the workshop. I was the deputy engineering officer. Then I became the divisional officer in engineering. I was also the base engineering officer. I was the head of logistics for Coast Guard for a while. Staff officer in charge of logistics. I've had some firsts, and not only first in my career, but first in the career and the experience of the entire world. For instance, in 2012, while I was deputy divisional officer of engineering, we had a project where we had to change a bearing on one of our OPVs, a rudder bearing, and the maker of the ship said that it was impossible to do it with a vessel in water. But I believe that word impossible is not real. And I had some really good engineers that worked with me that saw the vision I had, trusted me. We sat down, we discussed it, and we said we can do this thing. And the company that made the boat sent someone down to work with us. And the guy was like, "This is impossible. He don't know how we can do it." We sat down with him. We did some PowerPoints. We showed him what our plan was. And I'm happy to say that we actually did it. And not only did we do it and save close to $1 million or more taxpayers' money, but what we did actually was implemented by the company, and now they do the same thing. I also was head of engineering when we did Morinka, which is a sailboat donated to the Barbados Cadet Corps by a previous chief of staff, Raider Lewis. And we got that and we built it back up with some help from a guy by the name of Peter Thompson, who who's big in the sailing community by command. Also, we had assistance from a guy, Peter Horde. I think they used to call him Wipers. He was a navigating rally. A very, very fun guy. Members of the Barbados Cadet Corps, members of the Barbados Coast Guard as well, assisted on that project. There are a few other people. Commander Farley from Saul, he was also big in sailing. He was the head of the Cadet Corps at that point in time, or one of the heads of the Cadet Corps, one of the senior officers. He played a very major role in that project as well. Another project that I did, it was successful. I was the head of engineering and the project lead for the sinking of MV Trident in Carlisle Bay. MV Trident was one of our previous vessels. There was only 2 of them left in the world. And there were many projects in the way how to deal with the vessel. And at the end of the day, we decided to turn it into an artificial reef in Carlisle Bay. So we worked with staff from Barbados Port Inc. We worked with Barbados GIS. We worked with CZMU, Coastal Zone Management Unit. We had 1 or 2 private specialists. We worked with a few companies like this guy that has a drone. Very good guy. For some reason I'm forgetting his name right now. When I remember it, I'm gonna say it. And I don't know why all of a sudden, because I know his name. But if you want to get a view of the Trident project, it was a national project and it was launched on YouTube. So there's a beautiful video on YouTube where you can see the process of stripping the vessel, preparing it for scuttling in Carlisle Bay. And although there were many people in the interview, the special that was done, I was not even interviewed, but it's okay. So if you type in MV Trident 2016, you will see a beautiful video. The company that did the drone work was Caribbean Aerial Photography. Awesome footage. I am so impressed. I was so impressed. I'm also a scuba diver, so I got a chance on the first anniversary of the sinking and scuttling of MV Trident. I got a chance to do a dive. I did it every year after that, but then I got busy traveling. To actually see her in the water, I got a chance to swim through her, and it was very, very great. And that is one of the highlights of my career. So the Nation also had a special on it. It's called Farewell to MV Trident on YouTube. And there's MV Trident Sinking on YouTube by Caribbean Aerial Photography. If you just type in MV Trident and Barbados, you can see a lot of videos. A lot of people are doing dives now in Carlisle Bay just to see MV Trident. So there are many people that actually travel. They travel the world. They travel from all different parts of the world to see and to dive MV Trident. So that has been one of the highlights of my career. Also in 2018, I was the first person in Barbados to do an engine swap out of one of our OPVs offshore patrol vessels in Suriname. The first person ever. So that goes down in history. Another highlight of my career. And there are a few more that I know I'm forgetting, but I've had some success. And I'm not arrogant about it, because if you know, you know. If you don't know, it's okay. Now, in my line of work, engineering, I also have some other specialties. For instance, in 2017, I was the Coast Guard lead for logistics in the humanitarian aid and disaster relief to Dominica. So I was responsible for organizing, receiving, and distributing relief supplies from corporate Barbados, from civil Barbados, from churches and other non-profit organizations. And I was responsible for distributing through via different means. So we used our vessels, OPV vessels. There were a few private fishermen that did it as well. And I also worked in conjunction with St. Ansport and Sedema. And that was a big thing for me. We were very successful. It was extremely hard. We went weeks without going home. We went days without sleeping. But I had a very good team. I had some very responsible people and people who actually did not bitch and moan about it. They understood how important it was. And I really thank those guys for being so committed and working with me in that tenuous time. It was very high pressure, high tense, because you're dealing with so many different personalities and civilians don't understand there's a specific order. And then sometimes you tell people what the people in Dominica say that they want, but then some people will just bring what they can and you can understand it. But sometimes it's important to get what people need out first, and then the other stuff will go afterwards, so that people were calling to make sure that their stuff got done. And when they heard that it was still there, they were upset. But you have to sit down and explain to them, listen, right now, the people in Dominica don't need beds, they don't need mattresses, they need water, they need food, they need sanitary items, they need these sort of stuff, they need money. So right now, sending beds to Dominica will not help them right now. Now, a lot of people didn't understand that, because if your house was destroyed and you get a mattress, where are you going to put the mattress? You ain't gonna put it under a tree. You get what I'm saying? So the most important things had to go first, and it really teaches you discipline, because you might understand, and you have to try to explain to someone that does not understand, that is a bit narrow-minded or tunnel vision, why their contribution has not gone yet. It's not that it's not going to go, it's going to go, but it's not needed right now. And a lot of people don't understand that when it comes to humanitarian aid and disaster relief. I also worked with Calvin Atkins. He was one of the shippers at work. I did a lot for the Barbados, for the people of Dominica, let me just say that. And he gave a lot of his time and money. And there's so many organizations, there's so many people, they can't really name all of them, right? But I've been fortunate to work with a lot of awesome people in Barbados and overseas. One of my other specialties is I am one of the few people in Barbados trained in something called CBRN, which is Chemical, Biological, Radiological, Nuclear, Explosive Search and Rescue, right? So I got my first and second certification in Panama. I got my second one in Argentina, and I got my advanced in Colombia, and I did a specialty also in Colombia, something called chain of custody and handling hazardous and dangerous chemical and radiological equipment, where we learn how to avoid something called cross contamination. And because we're using chemicals that are not potentially, they are deadly, you can't really make a mistake. A part of it was EOD, but we didn't go too deep into EOD, which is really disarming bombs, that sort of stuff. And there's also a course on disarmament, so how to disarm nuclear weapons, how to disarm nuclear bombs, etc. But I didn't go that deep into it because that is not the field I want to go into. So my field also includes search and rescue, first aid, and that sort of stuff. I'm also trained in incident command by FEMA and also PAHO. I'm also, apart from being an incident commander, I'm also a mass casualty management officer. So I was trained in mass casualty management. And there are a few more things, but that is not important right now. So all of these experiences give me the opportunity to look at life a lot different, to see things through different eyes, and different experiences. And all along this journey, I have met some extremely good people. I have met people in my course in Panama that still communicate with me today. And if anyone they know is coming to Barbados, they're saying something for me. And if anyone they know is going to Panama, is saying things for them. And we always look forward to our next training session. Obviously, because of my sickness and COVID, there hasn't been any physical training. A lot of the training has been online. So you have an idea of basically sort of person I am, and the experiences I've had. And I want to say that I've always encouraged, and I will encourage anyone to, if you get the opportunity to travel for work or for school, do not um, do not say no. Just remember, dare to be different. There's opportunities out there that you will never experience if you don't take it, and sometimes being at home is not good enough. Now, I also want to say that I believe in giving back. So one of the first things I did when I came back from Cuba, before I started to work, I went back to youth service to give back. There was a warden there for a bit, and I used my time to counsel people. Since then, occasionally, for like 3 or 4 years after that, there were sessions where they got trainees to speak to people who passed through the youth service. And about 3 or 4 times, 3 years or 4 years after that, I was asked to come back and speak to them and share my experiences and inspire them. And I actually enjoy doing it because when I look at young people now, I remember how hard my life was. I remember a lot of things I went through. And I know when I was going through it, I thought I was the only person going through it. And I had a few people that were there that could say to me, Jason, you are not the first person to go through this. You're not the only person to go through this. You're not the last person that's going to go through this. And you know what? There are many people that went through what you're going through and worse, and they have made it through. And I like to put that in their mind and make it fun as well. So I believe in giving back. I believe in charity. There are so many charities in Barbados now, but I think the biggest charity, the biggest calling that I would love to explore is being an advocate for men. There's so many advocates for everyone else, but there's no one really standing up saying that there's a lot of inequality in the status quo today. I understand what it was before, but you know what? What it was before and what it is now doesn't make it right. The constitution, the exchange of one tyranny for another isn't right. And history shows us that the oppressed always become the oppressor. And once the oppressed become the oppressor, they forget everything about being oppressed. Or it becomes envious and devious. And I think that the extreme of feminists is detrimental. I'm not saying no to women movement. There are two different things. And if you understand the movement for equality, there's a big difference between the movement for equality and the movement called feminism and feminists, right? Different discussion, but in a nutshell, that is it. That is me. I want to thank you guys for listening. Let me know what you think about this episode. Let me know if there's some questions you have for me, some things you'd have liked me to talk about. I could always do a preview or I do a follow-up small insert to this one to answer any questions you might have. I want you to look forward for some changes, some things happening. Today I had a friend of mine's call me or send me a voice note about the opportunity of creating a logo, and that's something I'm excited about, and a few other things. But look forward for some changes. Also look forward for the panel discussion. I'm going to advertise. I did start putting it out on my social media, but when you get a chance to see it, I will make sure you do. So take a look at it, and I'm going to push it because it's very important. There's going to be a lot of topics. So once it's over, sometime this afternoon, I'm going to start promoting it. It's not my platform. I'm going to be on someone else's podcast. So look forward for that. I want to wish you all a very good day, a safe weekend. Have a good thought, have a good think, and please meditate. When you start to meditate, you will see how easy life can become, how easily it is to control your thoughts, control your actions, and you become in a place of zen. So I want to encourage you guys to meditate, or at least read up on meditation and try it out at least once or twice. Doesn't have to be every day, doesn't have to be every week. Just try it. It does help a lot. Alright, so you'll be listening to RTI with JAC, random thoughts and ideas with JAC. This is me, your guy JAC, Jason Antonio Clark. I want to thank you all for listening. and listen out for episode 10. I think it's going to be 2 more episodes before we close off this season. I'm going to take a break. I'm going to revamp, recoup, change up a lot of things, and come up with season 2. So thank you guys for listening. It's been a great experience. You guys have been awesome listeners and an awesome audience. Remember to like, subscribe, comment, ask any questions, shoot me an email, leave your comments. I am going to answer them as soon as I get them. I also want to take this time to reach out to some of the people listening again. I mentioned it before, but I'm going to do it again. So my listeners in Barbados, in the United States, in Bermuda, in Jamaica, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, in France, Trinidad and Tobago, Australia, Canada, and Antigua and Barbuda. Thank you guys for listening. Be safe out there, guys. Have a great week. Have a great weekend. Have a great thing. I done know. I say what I had to say. I share my random thought with you. Tell me what you think, though. Tell me what you think. Make sense?